If you clicked on this video, you're probably like me, a fan of tactical high fantasy RPGs, Dungeons and Dragons, multiplayer games, or bears. Or you played Larian Studios' previous title, Divinity Original Sin 2, and you're wondering how this game might compare. Hi, my name is LF Jake, and I'm going to run through 5 different ways Baldur's Gate 3 compares to Divinity Original Sin 2. Quick disclaimer, before we get into this video, let it be known that if you are a fan of Divinity Original Sin 2 but you've never played D&D, and you've never played Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, don't worry, this game does not require any past Baldur's Gate or D&D experience. Okay, let's get into the list. Number 1. Race. Baldur's Gate 3 boasts a roster of 11 races with 31 sub-races. These include humans, elves, dwarves, halflings, gnomes, Githyanki's, drow, tiefling, half-orcs, half-elves and dragonborn, compared to Divinity's 4 of humans, elves, dwarves and lizards with their undead counterparts. I believe that having so many choices of race will really make Baldur's Gate 3 feel so much more alive and varied, not to mention that the world will react to you as an individual, which will include treating you differently depending on what race you are, sometimes in a positive way and sometimes in a not so positive way. But your race isn't the only thing that will make your character unique. Number 2. Class. In Baldur's Gate 3, players will be able to choose from 12 classes, which expand to 46 subclasses. These include Fighter, Barbarian, Rangers, Rogues, Clerics, Paladins, Bards, Monks, Druids, Wizards, Sorcerers and Warlocks, all with their different skills and abilities. This is different from the system in Divinity 2, which revolve around 10 different skill trees, which focus on the typical Warfare for Warriors, Huntsman for your Rangers, Scoundrel for the Rogues, and Magic users following certain elemental paths, choosing between Air in Aerotheurge, Fire in Pyromancy, Earth in Geomancy, and Water in Hydrosophists, with the addition of Summoning, Polymorph and Necromancy. The main difference in the two games, I think, is that choosing a class in Baldur's Gate 3 will ultimately lead to you having a different experience with your story, whether you're a paladin trying to uphold your oath, a warlock asking your patron for advice, or a druid using your wild shape to talk to animals, along with all these classes coming with unique dialogue options during cutscenes. Number 3. Cutscenes. Now I know you've probably heard it before, but I have to mention it. Baldur's Gate 3 has claimed to have over 174 hours of cinematics. Let's put this into perspective. That is more than twice the length of every season of Game of Thrones combined, over a week-long straight of cutscenes. And don't worry, this isn't a game with hour-long cutscenes at a time. That 174-hour number is if you watched every different cutscene as a result of making every different decision as every different race, class, and origin character. Meaning that during a standard playthrough, you'll barely make a dent in the overall amount that you can see. Of course, this is very different from Divinity's narrator explaining what's happening in action-packed sequences while you stand idly by listening in. Now, there's nothing wrong with that style of narrative experience, but expect Baldur's Gate 3 to feel much more immersive and gripping during those more hectic moments. And for those of you looking at the multiplayer aspect, don't worry. Just like in Divinity, you can always jump in and listen when your friends trigger a cutscene or a conversation. Number 4. Combat. Now, both games may look similar in the combat department at first glance, but don't be mistaken, as there are some major differences, and if like me you haven't played tabletop Dungeons & Dragons, there might be a little bit of a learning curve. For example, instead of the AP system in Divinity, there are 2 main actions in Baldur's Gate 3, your main action and your bonus action, the main action being your standard attacks and spells, with your bonus actions being used on moves such as dashing, jumping, hiding and shoving, and in D&D fashion, expect a lot of dice rolls. You'll roll to see if your hit connects, you'll roll to see how much damage you do, and much more. Number 5. Dungeons and Dragons. As I've mentioned throughout this video, the biggest difference between Baldur's Gate 3 and Divinity 2 is the Dungeons and Dragons universe that Baldur's Gate 3 is set in. The races in the game, the locations that you visit, and all the rules following combat are all taken from the 5th edition handbook. Now, you don't need to follow Dungeons and Dragons to know everything that you need to know. Baldur's Gate 3 is very kind with its tutorials at the start of the game to help you find your feet, but it could never hurt to do a bit of research so you're not completely in the dark. I've left a video in the description to help you learn all the D&D phrases that fill newcomers with dread, like proficiencies, advantage, disadvantage, saving throws, long and short rests, cantrips, and all that stuff. So please go and check out that after this video if you're interested. And there we have it. In short, those are 5 different ways that Baldur's Gate 3 compares to Divinity Original Sin 2. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please feel free to like and maybe subscribe, as I will be doing a full Let's Play of Baldur's Gate 3 when it releases on PlayStation 5 on the 3rd of September. Until then, stay safe, and I'll see you in Baldur's Gate.